Hey guys, it's Doug. Welcome back to the Danger Planet. Today we're going to be talking about my personal top 5 tips for brewing competitive decks in Magic the Gathering. I'm going to be talking specifically about making unique individualized decks that you would take with you to a local game store for an F&M or maybe even to a local tournament with your friends. My personal experience in this has mostly come from Modern, Legacy, and Standard, so that's where a lot of the basis for this advice is going to be coming from. Remember to like and subscribe. We're going to have a lot more Magic the Gathering content coming, so hopefully you find something you like on the planet. So guys, my first big tip is to really know and understand the meta that you're going to be building this deck in. What I mean by that is you really want to know what the top 2, 3, 4 decks are and make sure that the deck you're trying to make doesn't have really bad matchups for any of those really popular decks. The reason for that is simple. You're going to be running into these decks when you go to an F&M or when you go to the tournament. In fact, they're going to be the majority of the decks that people are probably on. So you want to make sure that you're prepared for that, you understand that, and you're not building a strategy that is going to fold to any number of those decks. You really want to make sure that it's resilient to the known meta. So my second biggest tip is to make sure that you're building a deck that can interact with your opponent over the first 3 turns of the game. You don't want to be building a strategy that durdles a whole lot, especially in 1-on-1 competitive Magic. It's going to put you in a position where you're often really far behind on board, or your opponent is able to pressure your life total or progress their game plan pretty proactively, where you're kind of stuck holding the bag a little bit. A good example of this is in Modern. I like to think of Modern as a 4-turn format. So if you're not doing anything for the first 1 or 2 turns of the game, you're going to be put at a real disadvantage. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to build a blitz deck or that your homebrew needs to be particularly aggressive. It just means that you need to have a plan for interacting with your opponent on turns 1 and 2 of the game so that they can't just have carte blanche to do whatever they want. You want to be an active participant in the game, and then if your deck does a super cool thing or it has a really neat combo, then you can get into that later. But you want to still build a fundamentally sound deck that has a good mana curve, is interacting with your opponent, and doesn't fold to hyper-aggression or, like we talked about earlier, the known meta. My third tip is to make sure that you're not brewing in a vacuum. What I mean by that is, as you're going through the process of building your deck, you want to get active feedback from your peers. So if you have a play group that you test with, or even if you have a couple of guys or gals at your local LGS that are good players and you trust, take the deck list to them, talk to them about it. See if they have feedback for you about maybe things that you can tweak in your sideboard or feedback about the general strategy. I've found sometimes that when I'm working really hard on a list, I can get kind of consumed in it and I might miss more obvious things just because I've been working on it for a really long time. So a lot of times a fresh set of eyes can be really helpful. My fourth biggest tip is to be willing to let go of pet cards, or at least be open to feedback if they're simply not good in the meta or at the time. The biggest example that I have of that is actually Blood Moon. It's pretty much my pet card. I love it. I try to put it into every single brew that I make across Modern, Legacy, and when it's legal in Extended or Historic or something like that. I've hit times where it's just not good, and I've had to take copies out of the main board, put them into the sideboard, or even just reduce the overall number drastically and maybe only hold on to 1 in the sideboard. It's important to recognize that if you're trying to make a competitive deck, that sometimes some of your absolute favorite cards just might not be good at the time. Like I said, you can put them into your sideboard or maybe revisit them later, but if you're trying to go, head to head with some of the top tier meta decks, you want to give yourself the best shot. So sometimes you got to take a good hard look at yourself in the mirror and maybe put down that Blood Moon or whatever it might be. So my last tip is simply just to remember to have fun. The process of brewing is really kind of a creative discovery where you're trying to make something cool. And if you're getting overly frustrated or an idea just isn't working out the way that you want it to work out, then it's okay to put the project down for a little bit and revisit it later. I've had personal projects where I worked on them for a month, 2 months at a time, and I just wasn't happy with the result. So I put the deck down and I waited for the meta to change or some new cards got released, and it really reinvigorated the deck idea for me. and the decks actually ended up being better as a result of that. So again, if you're not having fun, it's okay to put it down and just revisit it later. It's not going to go anywhere. Thanks for watching the video, guys. These have been my top 5 tips for brewing competitive decks in almost any format. Remember to like and subscribe for more Magic content. We're going to have a whole bunch more stuff coming for the channel really soon, so keep a beat on Danger Planet. Clack it real good. Clack it good.
Planet Danger. Population Doug.
Oh no, I almost threw up.
Okay, don't throw up.
Oh no. Different strokes for different folks. We're alive.
Ah!
Ah! Ah!
Ah!
Ah!
Ah!
That's probably not usable then.
And also I dropped the thing, so we're probably not going to.
And also I dropped the fuck.
My bad.
Banana bread pudding. Around and desert you.
Like right
I don't
now.
know if that's the actual lyrics though. Are those the lyrics?
It's never going to give you up, never going to let you down, never going to run around.
And desert you. Yeah. You said that in such a disappointed tone of voice.
Yeah, well, it's because you constantly disappoint me.
Yeah, that's fair. We're gonna live in 1.
Where are my ranch Crocs, Doug?
Stop!
Get
We're
me the
on
Crocs.
number 4.
Get me the Crocs!
You're the cameraman.
I tried.
I'm Batman.
No, you're not.
I'm Bruce.
You're not even like 4% bad.
I need pictures of Spider-Man. I need pictures of Spider-Man. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you.
I felt so personally attacked by that Blood Moon comment.
I hope that's in the B-roll. It better be in the B-roll.
I'm only gonna include the part where it says, I hope that's in the B-roll.
Nice. Like and subscribe to the channel for more news and Battleship Star Weapons.